Hey guys, welcome back to The Art of Craftsmanship. My name's Dustin, and today in the shop we are going to be rehandling a kitchen knife and resharpening it. So I was given this kitchen knife. It has cracked scales. The red scales are cracked on it, so I'm going to take those scales off and I'm going to show you guys how you can rehandle a kitchen knife that you have. Whether or not you have a knife that, maybe the scales have started to come loose or it just doesn't match your kitchen set and you want to go ahead and put in new scales. I'm going to show you how I'll do that with this one specifically using the pre-existing knife. And then also I'll show you how I sharpen my kitchen knives. So this is my process of how to sharpening. It's not the process that everyone could use or will use, but I'll show you how I do it to make a really nice razor sharp kitchen knife. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is use the grinder and cut off the old handle scale. So I'm just going to cut into these rivets at an angle, and hopefully they'll just pop off. For all of those who are concerned in our previous videos about my PPE, I am wearing a respirator and I do have ear protection. So thank you for the concern, thank you for the comments, and I will take those to heart. All right, so here you can see that the rivets are actually only, looks like maybe 1/8 of an inch here, and not this full size, which is about 9/32 or so, which is good. That just means I have more variety of what I can use when I'm going to put rivets back on. I have 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch brass, so that's probably what I'll end up using, maybe 1/4 inch. But it also means that I'll be able to get these scales off a little bit easier, so that's good news. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and grind off the other ones as well. After using the grinder and cutting off these rivet caps, I was hoping that just by cutting the caps off, the handle would actually come off, but it hasn't. So it looks to me that it's been glued on, which is fine. It just means I have to kind of rethink about my steps. So I'm gonna clean off the handle and I'm gonna get out the metal cutting bandsaw and I'm gonna cut them off from there, because I'm going to also cut this cap. I want to be able to put a handle on this full handle as well, but I don't necessarily want to have to fit the handle exactly into this cap. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off, but I'm going to leave the end of the tang all the way through to the end here. I was about to continue grinding this off, but I just thought this was pretty interesting. I wanted to show you guys what's inside this handle. It looks like some type of filler. So it looks like a plastic, or maybe a red plastic handle that's hollow. And then there's an epoxy or a filler or something that's inside that glues everything together. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it does a really good job. It's going to be a beast getting the rest of this off. If anybody knows what it is in here, or anybody has an experience with these, or you want to take a guess, maybe put it in the comments below. What this is, how do they how do they attach these scales? I'm not exactly sure, but if you have an idea, put a comment down below and we'll see if we can figure it out. We just kind of got to the point where I'm pulling this, grinding as much of this off as I could, thinking I'd get down to a flat inner scale. But the more we get and the more we look at it, we realize that it's actually a hollow handle, and it's a skeletonized handle underneath with kind of these U-shaped areas that the rivets sit in. So it kind of, I guess, poses a different problem. But I'm going to go ahead and pop these out, try to drift them out now with just a punch, and we'll figure out what we're going to do to rivet these back on once we get to that point. This is kind of cool. You can see now that I've pulled out all of the material that was in here, and I'm going to clean this up. I'll use these spots, these 3 spots, for new rivets once I put the handle back on. Next thing I'm going to do though is I want to square up the intersection between the integrated bolster and the tang here. So I don't want to have to match this rounded corner with the wood that I'm going to put in here. So instead of having to match that perfectly and have it, you know, fill the gaps, I'm going to take some files and I'll square up this transition so it's just a square intersection between this integral bolster and tang. I have this nice piece of Bokote that I'm going to use for the handle, so I'm just going to press the bolster up as tight as I can on the wood, and then I'll just trace around this so I have an idea of what I'm going to cut out on the bandsaw. So I'm just taking my marking gauge and I'm marking the center line now. And then we can go back and use a pencil to just go along that line and darken it in. A little trick. You'll see your scribe lines. Finished up cutting the scales, so now I'm going to just take them to the belt sander and get them perfectly flat on the inside before we fit them up to the bolsters. I have the handle scales flattened now, so I'm going to fit them now to the bolster. I'm just taking a look at it, so it's pretty close. The bolster's pretty flat here, but where the tang comes out, it raises a little bit on here, so I'm getting a little bit of a gap where I need this to fit all the way in. So I'm just going to work on flattening this out as much as possible, so that way I get a really nice tight fit top of the handle onto the bolster. After a little bit of off-screen deliberation, I've kind of come to the conclusion that the only way to attach these scales and have both scales line up perfectly where the integral bolster is, because the bolster is not perfectly the same on both sides, I can't just rely on drilling through, setting up and drilling through. I have to get both scales into place like this until they fit really well and tight, and then clamp it and drill through the whole thing together. And so to be able to do that, I'm going to have to trace this on the outside of the scales here, so that way once I get everything attached really well and even, then I'll know where to drill through, so that way I don't hit the metal and actually go through these 3 spot locations. This handle is going to take a decent amount of epoxy to fill up because the space is in the skeletonized scale, so I'm going to make sure I mix up enough. Fill it in. So I was just about to tape up the handle to, protect my clamps from getting stuck to the handle. And I was thinking, I should just put tape on the actual clamps instead of actually putting on the handle. And then it kind of came up with the idea with my brother behind the camera, why don't we just take my used latex gloves, I can just cut off the fingertips and put some latex protective covers over the clamps. Safety first. So I have all the handle, everything attached now and clamped up. Looks really good. I cleaned up all the squeeze out all around the bolster up top. So we're gonna go ahead and let this set up completely and then we'll come back and shape the handle. We left this to sit a couple days actually just to cure up completely. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the clamps off and then we'll start shaping the handle. So this one's not going to have a ton of like a Coke bottle shape like I do for more bushcraft style knives. This is going to be a fairly simple one, just an even, just a taper back, so that way you have a nice, firm grip, full grip that you can cut with, but just a simple, even taper back to the end. I hang on to old belts after, something like this is from a smaller belt sander. This is broken up, so you can just tear these up into longer strips, and then you can actually use these to do your hand sanding because they're much stronger. The backing's a fabric backing, so it's a little stronger than the regular sandpaper. So just tear these up into strips and you can use them to do hand sanding. Just finished up taking the handle down all the way to a 400 grit sandpaper, which just feels amazing. It's super smooth, really nice. It's going to be really a pleasure to use. I've also sanded the bolster down to the same 400 grit. So it's not a perfect finish, but it does match up with the, the steel tang, and everything lines up well. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off now, and I'm going to use that same 400 grit paper and just take those scratch lines down the spine so it matches up here. And then I'll show you guys how I sharpen my kitchen knives. I just took off my 40 grit belt. This is the one I was using for shaping the handle on the 1x30. What I'll do now is I just use an old belt. This was originally, I think, a 120 belt, but it's been used off and on for sharpening, so it's probably closer now to a 300 or a 400 grit. It's really smooth. And for sharpening kitchen knives, you don't have to worry about taking a ton of material off. You just want to clean that edge up and then put a hone and edge on it. So after I use this belt, then I'll switch to my stropping belt. This is just an old belt turned inside out, which I'll put some polishing compound on. When you're sharpening kitchen knives and when you buy kitchen knives, they will normally have what's called a flat grind. So it's a tapered grind from the spine all the way to the edge. And then you have a secondary bevel or a micro bevel on the fine edge. So you don't have a perfectly flat edge that comes all the way down because that wouldn't be strong. It would be sharp, but it wouldn't be strong. So this flat grind comes all the way to the edge, and then you have a micro bevel or a secondary bevel, which is another tapered bevel down, which gives you a little bit more strength, but can also become really sharp. So I'm going to be grinding with that edge facing away from me, and I'll be using my slack belt. So instead of using the platen where it's a hard backing, I'll use up here where I don't have a backing behind it, so it'll actually just put a little bit of a convex grind on that micro bevel. So you'll see I'm going to, as I'm grinding, I'll just work the edge again so the belt is moving down, and I just start from the bolster and move out to the tip evenly as I pass, and again on the slack part of the belt, so just an even pass all the way from bolster out to the tip, trying to keep it as steep as I can. I'll do a couple passes and then I'll take a look, make sure my micro bevel looks fairly even, and then just go back to it. So a couple passes and check the bevel. Then I'll flip back and forth between both sides to make sure that my micro bevel is even. As you can see here, I've started getting the wire edge. So this is a really thin piece of metal that is hanging on to the edge of my blade. And as you can see on the tip right here, there's no wire yet. So that means this hasn't sharpened all the way to a perfectly fine edge. Once you get down to that edge, you get this wire, and this will kind of flip back and forth on your edge as you flip the blade back and forth when you're sharpening it. So when you get that wire edge and it continues all the way from your bolster all the way to your tip, then you know you're ready for stropping. And the stropping will actually remove that edge, which will then leave a perfectly fine, sharp blade. Yeah, that looks so beautiful. The oil just makes the grain pop so nice. All right, guys, well, this was a really fun project. Just a fun couple days in the shop, just kind of breathing new life into this knife that I had that had some cracked scales on it, and just something that's relatively easy for you to do as well. If you have a knife, you know, in the kitchen that maybe isn't as sharp as you'd like it to be, or doesn't look as nice as you'd like, you can take some time in the shop and put a new handle on it, sharpen it up, and just make it something that you really want to use, and it just feels good in the hand, and it's just a pleasure to use. So drop me some comments down below. What do you think about this project? And what do you think about my other projects? Also, follow us on Instagram at The Art of Craftsmanship. I like to put up lots of images of things that I'm working on in the shop, so you can kind of follow along with what's going on in the shop on a more day-to-day basis. So it was a great time in the shop, fun video. We hoped you guys liked it, and we'll see you in the next one.